The float and drop technique is good for showing rubato when we're trying to stretch time. In some ways it's related to the continuation fermata, except in the continuation fermata where we stay here at the bottom of the ictus and then lift in place to the next beat. In the float and drop technique, we float away from the beat and then change directions and drop to the next beat. We're replacing the classic prepare and then go towards the beat. We're replacing that technique with a change in direction and a change of speed. And both those elements are important to make this clear, otherwise it's hard to follow. For example, if we change directions too early, we're floating, and then we change directions, but we're not ready to go to the next beat, and then we change speeds and go to the next beat, that's not enough. But if we float and do both, that change in direction, change of speeds with a mature group and where we are all feeling the pulse well, that's enough to clearly show that next beat. If we don't change speeds, that's not very clear either. We want both. We float slowly and then we continue to the next beat. My left hand is doing something similar as we talked about with the continuation fermata. I could either have it sustain all the way through because we want the sound to sustain, da, 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 or I can have it mirror. Da, da, da. Either one is valid. With the floating away, don't float away too fast, otherwise you run out of space and you don't want to change directions. And when you get to the top, if you're at the top, it's okay sometimes just to stop. That's better than changing directions. Da, da, and that, in slow motion, that change in directions and speed at the top helps signal that downbeat. Don't overuse this technique, but it's useful when we want to stretch bits of time and we still want there to be a flow, so we don't want there to be little continuation fermatas all over the spot, all over the place. We just want there to be stretching of time and then we go on to the next beat. Let's cycle through a 4 pattern to start to see if that would work on various beats. Da, 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 da. Notice how I'm rebounding away, floating away from my next ictus point, and then switch. Da, 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 we're in a 3 pattern. So notice how I'm slowing down that rebound, and whereas in the continuation fermata we get there and we push pause and then we continue. In the float and drop method, we get there and we just put slow motion on. And then once we get slow motion off, we continue on, and that's the change in direction and the change in pace. We would use this also if we're in accompanimental conducting. Let's say there's a sustained note, da, 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 and so we wait for that da, da, and we just drop. We may not be able to prepare, da, prepare, da, da, da. Sometimes we might have that luxury, sometimes we might not. Musical theater, we might just have to wait for the singer to get off the note and then watch their breath and body position and then follow them and go down, and we have to be able to negotiate that and have the group follow us. So we float and then we drop and we move to the next beat. It's a very useful tactic for a variety of situations. One more wrinkle we can add to this is a little bit of, instead of going at the end of the float down, we can prepare that by going up. This really is slow motion, now continue. So it's slow and then fast. It would look like this. 2, going to beat 1, and 1, I float, and then I go. Notice how there's a change in tempo. And 1, 2, it's almost 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, slow and 4, slow and. And that change in tempo, in speed, helps prepare. It's almost like slow, we're not really moving, now prepare, and. So it's related to that continuation fermata, but helps us be a little more elegant and subtle as we move through rubato and tempo changes. Be careful about overconducting solo lines. If there's an extended solo, let the musician make music on their own. If we overconduct it, it looks a little bit like this. You can hear how that sort of energy doesn't help them. It actually creates some tension, and that was the cause of the missed note. If we let them just play on their own and essentially monitor the rest of the ensemble, it gives them some more freedom to be musical and take some pressure off them. So it would look something like this. So we essentially monitor the other elements and check in with the soloist. And Bobby's a really good musician, so he's making eye contact at phrase moments, at important moments, to make sure everything's fine, and we can monitor everything else.